So you gotta love when the powers of be are itching for a war. They're itching to get military into another country. So what do they have to do? They have to sell you the aggression. They have to sell you the idea of why we need to go invade and why we have to do that, which is known as war propaganda. It's known as war propaganda. And we have seen stories after stories after stories. I'm sure you've seen publications with the most bizarre, wild um headlines that people, took in at a blank slate and took in just at the sight of an eye, but then realizing you find out it's completely false, it's fabricated. And again, the reason they do that is to sell you the idea of going to war, going to conflict. Just like the WMDs, they use that fabrication to say that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction to make you believe that we have to go over there because they're up to no good. Just like they said Libya has done evil, or Syria gassed their own people, Bashir al-Assad gassed his own people. Those are fabrication stories to sell you the idea of we need to go over there and stop these people. And this is constantly on loop. We see every story imaginable. We see it throughout Russiagate. All the crazy, cringeworthy stories that have come out. Again, build this aggression towards Russia. And one of the things I find the most laughable is how far they would go with propaganda. So, take this for instance. So, people may have seen this before, but there's this story that came out, and this is from Business Insider. They believe that Russian soldiers are being supplied with Viagra to rape Ukrainian women and dehumanize them, claims UN official. This is from Business Insider, and they just printed it as will because it's from the UN, so it must be official. We're not going to, counteract it. We're not going to investigate it. We're not going to actually find the source who actually said this, but considering it's coming from a UN official, of course it makes sense that Russia is having young men and women in their military dosed up on Viagra to go on a rape spree. Like, it shows you how bizarre the stories will go and how elaborate some of the stories will go. That's how far deep entrenched they are with war propaganda. And Business Insider is a publication that's known to push propaganda, in this case with Russia and Ukraine. And so even going into the article here, so the bullet point says a UN official told AFP, which is I think a French publication, AFP, Russian soldiers are being supplied with Viagra to rape Ukrainian women. Pramila Patten, the UN Special Representative on Sexual Violence, says it's clearly a military strategy. She said the UN had verified more than 100 rape or sexual assault cases since Russia invaded Ukraine. But they're not giving you the full context. They're not giving you the full story on this. They're just making you, again, it's all trying to trick you, trying to manipulate you, trying to get to fearmonger you that somehow young, healthy soldiers in Russia apparently need to take boner pills to go rape a bunch of innocent people in Ukraine. It's just so bizarre. It's really so bizarre. And I also love how they have to add after that, send in your email so we can send you more propaganda. Give us your email. We'll send you more fabricated stories from Business Insider. So there's so many plot holes. There's so many plot holes to this whole entire story. First of all, why doesn't Viagra just pull out? And no, I didn't mean that as a joke. I know where people are thinking with that, but I didn't mean it in that way. But, McDonald's pulled out of Russia. All these other business corporations, they stopped doing business with the country. Somehow Viagra got through. Somehow Viagra's pushing its way through Russia. Like, I thought we cut the ties with them. Like, it's just, so there's so many plot holes to this. But there's a reason why there's so many plot holes, and it's because the whole thing was fabricated. This is war propaganda. As Max Blumenthal points out, the entire Western media and Slavoj Zizki promoted a UN envoy's claim that Russian soldiers were being on a Viagra-fueled rampage in Ukraine. Just saying that out loud, makes me think how crazily stupid this is. So, the UN is claiming that a bunch of soldiers in Russia are getting bolstered with Viagra to rape a bunch of people just willy-nilly. It's just so bizarre that it doesn't even make sense. That UN envoy now admits she has no proof and was influenced by an ex-Ukrainian official who's confessed to lying. So they fabricated this whole story to make you get even more aggressive with Russia, to further along this conflict, to further along the aggression, to further along the spears of war, because as Julian Assange keeps reminding us, even when in captivity, the goal is not winnable war. The goal is to continue this war as far as it will go, even with shitty goddamn propaganda like this, to make you, manipulate you, to further along this conflict, to further the aggression even farther as it can go. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're using CIA officials, they're using counterintelligence, they're trying to manipulate the general public to make you believe that Russia is the enemy and try to scapegoat and boogeyman it and fearmonger you. Even though there's no proof, there's no evidence to it. And even the guy who he confessed to lying. He confessed to lying. And this isn't the first time, actually. Because they've actually recycled some of this propaganda, which is kind of bizarre because you would think with war propaganda, they would hire some new writers time and time again. It's not like television where you just repeat a joke 20 million times. You know, you actually got to come up with something clever. But apparently, this is how bizarre this gets. So, in the lead out to the NATO intervention in Libya, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice, claimed that the Libyan government was giving soldiers Viagra to sexually assault civilians. So, are terrorists just a bunch of horny freaks? Is that what they're trying to tell us? Is all these, these suicide bombers and the people that are murdering people, is just because they can't get laid? They can't get up? Is that what they're trying to claim? Because apparently it's in Libya, apparently it's in Russia. It's all these countries that simultaneously we want to invade, we want to take control over, we want them to be devastated. Coincidence, right? Even though it wasn't true, the story was used to justify the UN role to authorize intervention. So they're just rehashing old propaganda and trying to fit it into a new era. It's almost like Mad Libs, for God's sakes. All you have to do is take the name of a country, any country the U.S. wants to invade or take occupying control or do military intervention, put it in there, say their president is bad, say their government is awful, and we need to give them democracy, humanitarianism, and goodness for all the civilians. They've done this with every goddamn country. And every goddamn country the United States intervenes has made it even worse. Have you seen Libya today? That place that was the Beverly Hills of the Middle East is now a sex slave trade off. It's a complete disaster when the U.S. invaded that country and killed its democratically elected leadership to install a dictator that allowed all that to happen. Because of fabrications like this. So the Gray Zone pointed this out, as you saw there with Max Blumenthal's tweet. And I want to read this part here, because this is very important. So Patton, the one that's claiming that Russian soldiers are taking Viagra to rape everybody, she says all the indications are there. she told AFP, the agency French press, so that's the French press, in October 14th. When women are held for days and raped, when you start to rape little boys and men, when you see a series of genital mutilations, when you hear women testify about Russian soldiers equipped with Viagra, it's clearly a military strategy. The UN envoy confidently proclaimed. So, again, just saying it out loud. Saying it out loud doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. Why would a country feed its military Viagra when it has all the, powers that be to kill one another? Why would they give them Viagra? First of all, why would Viagra still do business with Russia if every single corporation has completely cut the ties with Russia in this whole censorship, counteraction, economical sanction pact? Why would they give them Viagra to rape people? It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. And they're claiming it as fact. This UN lady that apparently has no idea where it came from is just claiming it as fact because, oh, well, Russia's already evil, so it's got to make sense. It's got to make sense because Russia is already painted as some sort of evil, nefarious country full of the most crazy, cringeworthy people imaginable. So of course it's going to make sense. And again, it's like Mad Libs. They could say this about Iraq. They could say this about Iran. They could say this about Afghanistan. They could say about any goddamn country the United States finds inferior. As long as they can paint them an evil, disgusting color, anything could happen. Anything could happen. You could have people that loaded up on Viagra and raping everybody to somehow controlling sharks with lasers. The propaganda just spews out of them like verbal diarrhea. So then, and this is where it gets really goddamn interesting. So, there's pranksters. There's a radio show that we've shown multiple times here. They go by the name of Ververt and Lexus. Or I'm messing up with the first name. But we've shown this before. They pranked, George W. Bush. They pranked other people thinking that it's Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. And turns out it isn't. And then they, through the pranking, the people that they're talking to reveal exactly how nefarious they are and how willing they're going to sacrifice the country, sacrifice the people, sacrifice everything they can to hold a pledge to Ukraine to use as a proxy to maintain U.S. hegemony. So here's the UN lady here. This is Patton herself getting pranked by these two. And watch how quickly she reveals that it was all fabrication and she has no proof or evidence to back the claim that somehow a bunch of Russian soldiers are taking Viagra. Take a listen.
I ask you because you know that Russians also try to post it as a fake because you know that is a very problem. So I would like to ask you: did they provide you any proofs of it was a Viagra?
No. I don't. Like I said, it's not my role to go and investigate. It's not the role of my office.
So just say on the open. Did they ask? Do you have any proof? Did they give you any evidence? Did they give you any claims on where exactly? Do you have any sources? No. And I'm not bothered to look into this because it's not my job. It's not my job to factually claim myself. It's not my job to actually know where my sources are coming from. It's just my job to sit here and feed you a bunch of lies. It's my job to propagandize you without actually claiming the evidence first. This is from a UN representative. A UN representative just outright lying to you. No, we don't have any evidence. We don't have any claims. We don't have any further evidence to prove my claims. But I'm just gonna blurt it out in the open. I'm blurting it out in the open because it's not my job to investigate. I sit in a pretty office.
Have an advocacy mandate to provide strategic leadership on prevention and response. But when I have engaged with the media since I returned from Kyiv in May, I have mentioned that I have received reports from survivors and frontline service providers about women and girls being detained in basement of buildings in Mariupol, gang rape for days, with Russian soldiers having being equipped with Viagra and other drugs.
But there's no evidence to back that. Well, we have reports. Well, you just said we don't have the factual evidence to back those claims. How do you know for sure they're Russian soldiers? How do you know that these women were truly raped? Like, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre, but you have to take accountability to what they're saying. Because we've heard every single bizarre story known to mankind when it comes to war propaganda, when it comes to inflating a crisis, when it comes to manufacturing consent for illegal war and inhumane, unspeakable things. We've seen this throughout. Everything from WMDs right up to Bashir al-Assad gassing his own people. We have seen everything under the sun when it comes to propaganda. And you, as a UN representative that's supposed to be responsible and fact-checking and trying to prevent, sexual assault and stuff, you have no factual evidence or basis to back your claims. So what you're saying here is just more fabricated bullshit. You already admitted that you're a liar. You already admitted that your office, they're not part of investigations. We don't investigate. We don't look into things. We don't actually hold people accountable.
And also they share, for example...
so you did not make any investigation about Viagra or something like
it's
that?
It's not my job to make I do not have the mandate. I sit in New York, in an office in New York, and I have an advocacy,
Yeah, it's not my job. It's not my job to actually focus on the reports and actually find evidence to back those reports. It's not my job. My job is to sit in my perky office in New York, and I just don't have the time. I don't have the mandates. I don't have the advocacy, I don't have anything. I'm just a simple woman that's spewing out garbage. I don't have the factual integrity to actually back the claims I'm saying. I can't believe, and she's spilling this on a prank show. Like, these two are so brilliant because they sound legitimately like an actual interview show, but these are two comedians who have pranked everyone from George W. Bush to Justin Trudeau to every single leader, every single military advocate, everybody, to getting them to reveal exactly their nefarious proxy plans and abusing Ukraine to go against Russia, because we all know, looking through history, if you take 2 seconds out of your day, go Google the history of Ukraine. Go look at the documentary that Oliver Stone did. Go look at Ukraine on Fire. Go look at the history of one of the most corrupted nations in Eastern Europe, and look at the story behind this. Look at 2014, the coup attempt that the United States imposed on Ukraine to throw off their democratically elected government, to install this puppeteer government, and the fact that we've aligned ourselves with neo-Nazis this whole entire time. Go look at that. Go look at the Minsk Accord. Go look at the peace agreements that have been ignored by NATO, that have been ignored by the United States, the militarism that was already impacted, that we're lining up already with Russia, and how, Adam Schiff even said during Congress, he said, we have to fight Russia over there so we don't fight them over here. It was all planned. It was all goddamn planned. And this is, again, another example of them trying to manufacture consent to build up more aggression. because it sounds bizarre and you'll probably believe it if you already have that mindset that Russia's all evil. But it's completely fabricated lies. That's how propaganda works. That's how they manipulate you. That's how they sell you the idea of war. Because, like I said, there's a famous saying that goes, everybody's against war until the first lie is dropped. Until the lies are dropped, then people start to go, oh, well, so-and-so said that they got, bad things over there, so we got to go over there. We got to do something about that. We got to straighten them out. You're either on our side or the terrorist side. That was my George W. Bush there. But there you go. There's a UN representative admitting that first of all, not her job to investigate her claims, but also openly lying to you. Openly lying to you. To make you believe that Russia's even more evil than it sounds. When really, if you look at the entire historical context of this conflict, you will understand exactly why Russia's doing what they're doing. You will understand exactly where this conflict came from. It didn't start in February of 2022. It started way, way, way years ago. This is something the United States have proposed since the end of the Cold War. And they've wanted to continue this ever since. And they got to continue this by manufacturing even more garbage propaganda to make you believe that this is that we need to continue this agony because they think we're saving lives, even though there's no proof or evidence to base all this.